Thank you very much for listening to this week's talk on the Sedra of Chukas. And we dedicate the learning that we are doing to the speedy and safe release of all of the hostages in Gaza and the safety and security and success of all of the soldiers of the IDF as they continue in their mission to keep the land and the people of Israel safe with God's help. As we contemplate the messages and content of this week's Sedra, I feel, as always, this is something that speaks to us always and especially now. And the Sedra begins with the description in the chapter 19, all 22 verses, of the enigmatic mitzvah of the Pora Aduma, the red heifer. And this is a category of mitzvah that is classified as a chok, which is the English word statute. And the way of understanding it, is that it is a commandment, a mitzvah that has no logical reason, a supra-rational command of the Torah. And this is an enigma wrapped in a mystery, and it is held up. If we look at the opening words of chapter 19, Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe ve'el Aaron lema, and Hashem spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, Zos chukas haTorah. This is the statute of the Torah, Asher tziva Hashem, that God commanded Lema, saying, Daber el bnei Yisrael, speak to the children of Israel, v'yikhu elecha pora adoma tamima, and they shall take for you, to you, a completely red cow, asher ein bo mum, that has no blemish, asher lo ola aleha ol, that has not had a yoke upon it, so has not been in the field doing the work of the under the plough. And so this mitzvah was actually given at the beginning of Nisan, so that would have been almost a year after the Jewish people left Egypt. And we then, in the events, the many events that in the rest of the Sedra that we read about, notably the passing of Miriam and Aaron, and the predicted passing of Moshe Rabbeinu, although he does not actually die in this week's Sedra. But these events and the various battles that happened, also related in this week's Sedra, all of these take place in the 40th year, just before the entry of the Jewish people into the land of Israel. And nothing is random. Everything is part of the divinely orchestrated way in which the Torah is guiding us, giving us messages. And so the very perplexing ritual of the Pora Aduma, of the red heifer, is actually going to help us navigate the crises that come after in this week's Sedra, and also as we navigate our way through life. And this completely enigmatic mitzvah, I think that we cannot possibly fathom how, by taking this completely red cow and then reducing it to ashes and then sprinkling the ashes on somebody who has come into contact with the primary source of impurity, which is a dead person, and has then become impure, and by having these ashes mixed with water sprinkled on them, they then become pure. And that is perplexing enough, but even more perplexing, and one of the reasons given why this particular chok is described as the quintessential chok, says that Zos chukas haTorah. Perhaps we could have argued that it should say Zos chukas hapara. This is the statute of the heifer, of the cow, but it talks about the statute of the Torah, because this idea of the inscrutability of the ritual and the combination of life and death and the association of impurity with death, and how we are able to come back to purity, and that kind of mechanism, that is something that is just so so crucial to our understanding of our nature as human beings, our purpose, the value of our lives, coupled with, by definition, the temporary nature of our physical lives. How are we going to manage all of this and still find meaning and purpose in life, yet armed with the knowledge that it is temporary, and therefore we need to actually invest even more in the time that we have available. And I think that we learn part of the lesson of understanding this from the fact that we have, in the previous week's Sedra, read about Korach. And Korach, and he made grievous errors. He rebelled against ultimately the word of Hashem, and he pointed the finger at Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron, claiming that they have taken the top jobs for themselves. And with his incredible intellect, Korach made the very serious error and saw things in completely the wrong way. And I think that the concept of Para Aduma, the concept of not understanding how this particular ritual works, why it's necessary, we are able in the possibly in the most fundamental way, as we confront the nature of our own existence, the meaning of our own lives, we are able to submit and surrender to Hashem, to the processes of the Torah, to say, I don't understand, but I'm following this, and this will give me solace, and this will give me courage, and this will give me love and value of the whole life process as I go through that. And I am going to put my intellect to the side because I do not understand that. And I think perhaps Korach is helping us learn this on the one hand. I think we also gain insights from the fact that we read about this particular mitzvah, which actually was given at the beginning of the second year of the desert sojourn of the Jewish people on the 1st of Nisan, whereas the events that occupy the rest of the Sedra, notably the demise of Miriam and Aaron, and the predicted demise of Moshe Rabbeinu, those are going to happen in the 40th year, at the very end of the desert sojourn of the children of Israel. And it is there for a reason. It is there because losing these three great leaders are in relatively close proximity is a very destabilizing national crisis event. And the loss of any loved one is destabilizing in a certain way. And certainly the loss of our greatest leaders is going to be something that is going to rock the entire nation. And the Ralbag Gasonides, who was a French medieval philosopher living in the 12th and 13th century, and he explains that because we read about the Meimah River, which is the crisis at the water when Moshe and Aaron are told to speak to the rock and water will come forth, and instead Moshe Rabbeinu hits the rock. And Gersonides explains that they were used to taking counsel from Miriam, from their elder sister, who had played such an important part in their lives right from the very beginning of before Moshe Rabbeinu was born, and Aaron is still a little boy. And they missed that counsel, they missed that advice, and they in this way were unfortunately taking the wrong path because they had not yet adjusted to life without Miriam and missed her the opportunity to go and discuss this particular challenge and event with her. And Rav Sachs Zatzal explains that and sort of gives us another perspective of how Moshe Rabbeinu could come to do what is perhaps on a simplistic level, something that we struggle to understand. Hashem says, speak to the rock. So Moshe Rabbeinu, who we're so often reading, Kasher tzivah Hashem es Moshe, Kasher tzivah Hashem es Moshe. Moshe is scrupulous to follow to the finest detail every single instruction of Hashem, and suddenly here he deviates in clearly a very significant way. And Rav Sachs says that he was in a low emotional place after the demise of his elder sister. And this is something that meant that his decision making, that he just was not functioning in the optimal way, in the best way that he could. And that again is a way for us to understand how he could have made such a mistake. But whatever the reasons that are given, this is something that we are by referring so recently to the message of the Para Aduma, to understand that we are going to go through these processes in our lives. But when we have a ritual of the Para Aduma, then we are able to get over. We have a period of mourning, and we are going to be able to come through that. We are going to be able to resume our lives and appreciate and value and make the most of all of the potential that we have by learning from the events that happen from the beginning of the Sedra, which talks about the mitzvah of Paraduma, gives us this very enigmatic ritual, and then how we are able to cope with the loss of our great leaders. And really not to underestimate the impact of the passing of Miriam and Aaron and the predicted passing of Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Abarbanel explains that each of these three were spiritual leaders of the highest caliber, but they were also associated with miracles that were part of the survival, the physical survival of the Jewish people in the desert. So Miriam, in the merit of Miriam, we had the supply, the miraculous well that accompanied the people as they traveled the desert. And when Miriam died, this supply of water finished. And so that was actually what precipitated the crisis of the waters of strife of the Meimah River. In the merit of Aaron, we had the Ananei HaKovod, the clouds of glory, and this was the sort of the protection that was given, the divine protection that was embodied by these clouds of glory, and this was the given in the merit of Aaron. And in the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu, we have the Mon, the Hamotzi Lechem Min Hashamayim, the miraculous bread from heaven. And this is direct nourishment and sustenance that was given to the Jewish people. So we have a parallel spiritual and physical tremendous loss. And this is something that the people are going to have to adjust and really take new courage and confidence. Understand that the time of these great leaders had been and was now coming to an end. That the period in the desert was a unique time of a very rarefied spiritual existence, and Moshe Rabbeinu, Aaron, and Miriam were the great leaders suitable for that time. But as in the 40th year, the people are now getting ready to go into the land of Israel, where they are going to be living a life that no less under the hand and the eye of Hashem, but still more taken up with the natural cycle of life that Hashem orchestrates for us. And so they are going to require a different leader, and it is a new generation. And so this is something that is part of the passing of the baton. And although it involves the passing of great people and the fate that awaits all people, but this is not something that is the end. That by looking at the ritual of the Para Aduma, by understanding that by definition it is a chok, it is a statute, this is something that enables us to tune into eternity, the eternity of Hashem, the eternity of our neshamas and our achievements during our lifetime, And Miriam and Aaron and Moshe Rabbeinu are all shining examples of that. And with their physical demise, their achievements are not diminished. They continue to be role models for us, and we are, as we hear so many people called after them, and we celebrate everything that they have done, and we learn from them. We learn from the things that they did right, and we learn from their mistakes as well. And so in this way, we are able to tap into eternity. And I think that this is as we look at the opening section of this week's Edra, and this is a message for us for all times of our life, for all times of our history, that the mystery of life, the mystery of our mission in life, that is something for us to fathom, for us to try our best to do, but equally to be aware that in passing, that these achievements are in no way diminished, and we are able to celebrate and learn from them on an ongoing basis. Thank you very much for listening, and wishing everybody Shabbat Shalom.